get access? How did they get access?
All you have to do is log online. I mean, everything is
Oh well,
digital.
yeah,
So
now they have a
um,
little access to things because of what's going on. That is true.
That's
yeah.
interesting. That's interesting.
So they said they can get around the school's firewall.
Yeah, you can now because they're opening up more. They're allowing it to be more accessible because they know that the kids have to learn online. That's the thing. We're not into the. Because before we got out, Verizon, my system had a firewall up against Verizon. I don't know why, but our phone systems wouldn't work in the building. I was like, okay, why?
It's
And then
really crazy.
it was weird. It was really weird. Our phones would not work in the building for like a whole 3 weeks. And then eventually on that third week, it kind of like they lifted. But I found out they did have a firewall up. So maybe something from Verizon came through one of the networks and, triggered a virus. So I don't know what happened.
They know how to do it now. I done seen toddlers on YouTube, and I'm calling their moms, and they push me to the voice.
Right.
Oh, wow. Well, guys, we're live and I want to get started. I am so glad to have Miss Malikah with us. She's going to reintroduce herself. And of course, longtime mentor for myself, very phenomenal woman, as you both are, Coach K. So, Coach K, can you introduce yourself to us? Tell us what all you do. I want to hear about your expertise, your experiences, your entrepreneurship. Just give it all to us, girl. Go beyond that 30-second commercial.
Okay. She said, "Go beyond." And I apologize ahead of time. We having like my internet connection. It has been terrible lately. I don't know what's going on this side of town, but nonetheless, all right. So I'm Coach K. Full name is Chandra Knight. I've been in education for this is year total. This is like year number 15. I've done adult education, and then I moved over to so I did training in property management. Then I moved over to K through 12, and my area is secondary 6 through 12. So teaching language arts. Okay. I love it. I love to read, love to learn. And I get excited when the little people get, the light bulb moment, Okay. So about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I went online and I participated in a coaching class where you can get, your certification and everything like that. But I sat it down and I didn't really do much with it because I was like, okay, Lord, I don't really know what to do. But I ended up picking it right back up just this year, as a matter of fact, because I started having like counseling sessions with teachers. I found they were having the problems that I was having, the same struggles that I was having, but I realized I know what my gift is, and that's healing. So I set everything up, and I started having like one-on-one sessions with teachers, on a weekly basis. So took it from there. Expanded and kind of broadened my platform. I am also the subject matter expert on love and relationships. AOK on Sundays. 3 Sunday a month with Amanda Cooper.
Oh,
so
Amanda.
God is really doing. So pretty much the gist. And I think I've worked in terms of education. We've been managers, directors, mentors. We've all kind of been in that in that field. It's kind of, for me, it's really about support. Like, just tell me what you need and let me see if I can help you. That's kind of where the position that I come from, So, just making that transition, still working in education, but still making that transition to coaching and just helping people, just especially right now, just that healing part is essential because people are they're going crazy and they don't really know what to do. They don't know what to believe, and they don't know how to feel. You know what I mean? They're afraid, and they're allowing that fear to take over their lives, and they're stuck. So that's where I come in.
Wow. I remember when I met you, Coach K. I was out at a function, you and some other wonderful women. I was like, oh, let me get a notepad out and a pen.
Oh,
That was the first time I met her. I was like, oh, this lady is powerful. And then we reconnected. We didn't quite connect that night, but we reconnected later on. And I just had a chance to sit at your feet. And I'm telling you, Coach K, oh boy, you have the coaching skills that are just of excellence, just helping
you
people
are.
to go to the next level. She immediately, I was running for office because you had ran for office yourself, and she immediately told me what I needed to do,
Oh wow.
to take constructive criticism. I mean, it was just like, this is what you need to do, and this is what you need not to do. And I do think you need to take this away. And I just said, and I was like, it was given it, like she mentioned, in such healing and grace, that it was so receptive for me. I was able to take it and receive it and ultimately become a better person.
Yeah.
Need to hear from you
So
tonight.
look at
So
you.
You wear
inspiring.
a lot of shoes. Very, I tell you, very, very intellectual. Very. I always remember that white suit.
Girl, listen, but she came in with the suitcase full of books. I will never forget that. I was like, where does this lady get all this time? I said, she must not have kids. She must not work or something. And she got time to write all these books.
Right.
Look, let me not steal your glory. I'm telling you, you helpful, very helpful. Miss Malika, tell us about yourself, girl.
Well, I consider myself a teacher first, but an entrepreneur as well. So I guess I would say I always say teacher entrepreneur because I wear both hats.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm a teacher by day, but I'm an entrepreneur every day. So I have my own consulting agency. I have my own 501c3 nonprofit organization. I'm also the CEO of a trucking company
Hmm.
in Lithonia area. And I love helping people as you both do as well. My grace, I think, is just in knowledge, giving people knowledge and information that can be helpful in building their dreams. And my pitch statement for my company is turning people's destinies into a reality. So
Mhm.
that's my goal all the time when I'm helping someone build their business or helping them start their business. I want them to turn their dreams into a reality because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we think that we're not supposed to build the next person, but we are. That's why we got into entrepreneurship because it's helping someone else be a better business person or a better business owner.
Yeah.
So I take dignity in what I do, and I'm very humble in what I do as well because I know that someone had to help me get to where I am. So I
Mm.
always take that into consideration um, when I'm helping one of my clients or if I'm helping someone be knowledgeable of what they want to do.
Right.
And just to shed a little light, because we always go back to thanking you, Gretchen, because Gretchen has
Yeah.
played a big part. She has, and she doesn't like to take a lot of
Yeah,
credit
because
on
I'm talking about you guys tonight.
it. So, but she doesn't. But
Got my
I
paper
do
and
thank her
everything.
because she doesn't even realize, even doing the conferences, the Zoom conferences, this is building my character as far as getting on my podcast because I'm like, okay,
Me too.
is this something I really want to do? And now I
Right.
see it's something I'm supposed to be doing. So it's making me push me into a different arena of being more, I guess, appearing more on the social sites,
Mhm.
giving knowledge that way,
Me
growing
too.
my business in that manner.
Mhm.
So I thank you for pulling me on
I
and
thank
helping
you
me
too.
grow.
And look, we after tonight, look, because both of y'all are supposed to be authors. So tonight we're gonna
I
make this
know.
thing,
I
make this
promise you, I'm
happen.
gonna have that book before the summer. I'm gonna have my book started before the summer.
And
I,
Coach K has written some others. Come on now.
I am not going to say anything because I am the worst. Like I have so many books sitting over here on this computer that it's
Oh
ridiculous. And I
wow.
know people are like, where are these books? And I think it's just, you know what it is? I've been using this time now to work
Right.
on them because I just like, I almost feel like I didn't pray for the virus, but I was going to work every day asking God to let me work from home.
Give
And
me
then it
time.
happened like, oh, okay. So I'm definitely working on it because I'm notorious. I'm a notorious. I know I shouldn't be saying this about myself, but I'm a notorious procrastinator when it comes down to getting my own stuff done. Now everybody else's stuff I get done, but getting my stuff
Yeah,
done,
right. Right. That's me as well.
at the end of the day.
I'm the same way. All right. Well, Coach K, I have a question for you. As it relates, because you've been in the role of administrator director, as it relates to homeschooling distant learning, what advice could you give parents, one? And then the second part to that question is what advice can you give teachers? And then finally, the advice that you would give administrators. So we're looking at the aspect of how would you help parents through this process? How would you help teachers through this process? And then how would you help administrators facilitate this process?
Okay. Well, first I'm going to start with the parents, and as parent, I would just say, as a parent, I would say, you're not Superman or Superwoman. Take the cape off, figuratively, and understand that you're not the child's teacher. You weren't in the classroom every day learning. You didn't go to school to get your certification. So, and it's not to take away the knowledge that the parents have, but just to say that it's okay if you don't know it. It's okay. So don't try to take all of it in at once and attempt to recreate the classroom, because that's what a lot of the parents were doing. They were attempting to recreate the class schedules. So it causes confusions with the children, because home is home and school is school. So do your very best to make sure you differentiate. This is the class setting during this time, and then after that time, it's home. It's the child is at home. Because the child, of course, is the one that is the center of attention. You know what I mean? As far as the teachers go, I would just say the same thing as a parent. Don't try to overload your donkey. In other words, don't try to take on too many tasks at one time. Space it out. Think about the fact that online learning is modified, and it is, and everybody hasn't had that opportunity to take part in the online learning. So you're going to step it. So if you have typically whatever you plan, I know we all have participated in planning. Me, Dr. Gretchen, and Miss Malikah, we've all participated in planning. That planning process, take it and cut it almost in thirds. Do not try to take your entire week where you physically see these children and overload it into 1 day or 2 days. Break it up. Give them the opportunity to digest what you're saying, because you're not standing in front of them all day long. So give the children the students the opportunity to digest what you're saying, because at the end of the day, we're all teaching for mastery, because it's all about identity. So you want that child to be able to learn it, digest it, and then give it back to you and apply it in life, right? So just break it up, break your lessons up. You know what I mean? And don't feel like you have to give them what you typically would give a class setting in terms of curriculum. Small, elephant chunk, like I call it. And as far as administrators and directors, the best advice I can give is be supportive. Just be as supportive as you possibly can. Some online platforms. I know that the school that I worked at, we don't have a main platform. We are utilizing like Google Meet and Zoom to do our classes, but there's so much confusion and so much chaos where I know that our principal he's just trying to figure this thing all out, and all you can do at this point in time is just really put on your role of support and just be there for those teachers, be there for those parents, and just understand that everybody is just as confused. Everybody's feeling some type of way. You know what I mean? Right. Just be supportive, and whatever the teachers need in terms of resources, give it to them. If it's ABC Mouse, or if it's IXL, or if it's USA Test Prep, all of those online resources, give it to them. Just give it to them and make their job easier. That way that they can help the parents, and then that's less that comes back to you. So that would be pretty much my advice, because it really isn't very much that you can do to try to make this change. All you can do is just try to help the child and the parent and the families as much as possible, so that they're calm enough to help the child. Does that make sense? Yeah. So
to embrace it.
Yeah, keep the student in the center, and keep your focus on the student, and don't lose sight of the fact that that student needs all of us. The student
Right.
needs all of us because they've never experienced anything like this before. I know we haven't, but can you think about it on their level? Like they're scared. They're scared out of their mind and they have no idea what's going to happen. So, this is where we got to step up and maintain our positive, attitude and really just be supportive. That's all you can really do at this point.
And before we transition to Malikah, you answering that, can you? This is going to take a little turn from here. What would you say would be different in your role as being a leader and also being a teacher? How can we embrace the era that education is going in to make it different? Because I've seen you in action and at the setting you were in, and that's a phenomenal setting for kids to learn. What do you think we can do as educators who are pioneers and looking to make a difference in the education arena, and those who are aspiring to be leaders to do things differently? Because those kids had opportunities, they had choices to do and branch into areas that they wanted to do. Like one day I saw you said, we're gonna just go out and wash the cars. This is a school day and we're washing the cars. But that is, to some, that's a trade, that's a skill,
Right.
that's a
It is.
technique.
Yeah.
What would you
Right.
say, especially, and we're gonna lead in after you answer Malikah, so you can respond to someone like Malikah who wants to start a school. What are the things that you notice, and what can leaders of education do so that when we have these opportunities that we can embark on this so that our babies can experience this?
Oh, it's
I'm
for
sorry,
me?
I was asking Coach. I'm sorry, Coach K.
Okay.
What could you give to teacher leaders such as ourselves, the mindset of the things, the techniques, or the tools that we can use to embrace this new wave of education that should take place?
Oh, absolutely. The first thing I'm going to say is, do your homework, stay up with the trends, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think this is something that some of my coworkers and I had this conversation. We had the same conversation a couple of weeks ago prior to us getting out of school. And when the coronavirus came about, like that topic came up, I remember us being in a meeting and I raised my hand and I said, we should do a drill. And some of my coworkers, of course, they were like, you being funny again, Night. And I'm like, no, they're serious. We should do a drill. As much as, everybody wants to get off work, I was like, we should do a drill. And that next week it happened. And I remember saying to my coworkers prior to that if this thing happens, you do understand that we're not coming back to school. We're going to be online. And things that we know as normal are not going to be normal anymore. So that leads me to my next recommendation, and that is, now you have to create the new normal, right?
Wow.
Because the old normal is gone. So you have a groundbreaking opportunity to create what's new. And therefore staying up with the trends where you can see it coming before it happens. I remember when I interviewed at the school that I am now, I remember asking, because the school I came from, the kids only went to school 3 days a week. And I was used to that for about 4 years. And I didn't understand. I mean, coming back into the public sector, I'm looking around like, why are these kids still here on Thursdays and Fridays? They were like, what are you talking about? I'm like, this is not the trend. And so that let me know that, people aren't really, not everybody, but a lot of people aren't paying attention, and they're so used to the whole brick and mortar, right? The kids going to school. And so when I explained, they're like, how are you able to get all of that done in 3 days? And I said, because you take out the common circumstance, kids they need, and you have one digital day. For lower, like not for elementary, but for like middle school, you have one digital day, right? And then for high school, you have where they have the opportunity to do like the hands-on learning, like an internship. So them going outside and washing the cars, let me tell you something. I did that with my high schoolers, and that's how they learned poetry. They recited poetry.
Wow.
So that's the type of thinking that as an educator, you have to come out of the mindset of that antiquated, old, systematic type way that was put in place like ancient years ago, right? And think about, okay, so if we're online now, right? The school, if we're online now, what can I do what can I provide to these kids, to the administrators, to schools? What can I provide to them that will be a resource that will go on for years to come?
Wow.
That's the way my brain works. It's like, okay, let me get ahead of the 8 ball. So I think that's another thing to consider. So you this is the time to tap into your gifts and really see how can you put that online. And if you look at your people's social media accounts, you're capable of doing it because you're doing it every day on Instagram and Facebook. You're doing it. You know what I mean? LinkedIn,
Right.
you're providing content,
Right.
So so just stay ahead of the trends and always look for new opportunities. But in the midst of it all, never lose sight of that student. You got to always remember that if you have this child that you're teaching in the 6th grade, you don't want to think about it. Okay, well, I'm teaching him in the 6th grade. I want to think about this all the way through 6, 7,
The
8, 9, 10,
future.
11,
Yeah.
12. I need
Right.
the end result to show that he's had a good group of teachers along the way that have
Right.
guided him, because he could be in there with you for middle school, and then by the time he gets to high school, something has taken place and he's changed his outlook, and he's not wanting to go to school anymore. So
Wow.
just always figure out a way of how you can always stay, even if it means moving up, if it means opening up a school, if it means thinking of creative ways, washing cars, going and helping going out to assisted living homes and doing spending time with the elderly, reading to the lower school, creating they had to create one year they had a project where I gave them their life. Like I said, you're this 44-year-old man who graduated from college, you work here, you make this kind of money. So they had scripts that they had to follow, and they had to budget groceries, they had to balance check,
Wow.
they had to manage relationships, and it's just like us. Like, the life that God gives you is not like you're not always able to say, you know what, God, can you do me a favor? Can you scratch this? Because I don't really like this life. You can say that, but I don't think you're going to get very far with it.
Right.
How can I use what I have, what God has
Right.
given me, and
Me.
make the very best of it?
And
Wow.
Coach K,
Mindset.
Coach K, you're so right. And that was one reason, and you kind of really tapped into why I want to start my own school. It's because those skills that you're talking about, those are skills that I developed young. And if you train them at a young age, how important these things are, they're developed already at that point. It's just maturing them so that they can see how they are maneuvered into adulthood. So that's one reason I want to start my own school, so I can build those skills, because it's so important. Because if you teach a kid how to balance a checkbook, that's business. That's teaching them how to develop a sense of how I can run a business if I have one, how I need to maneuver my funds into an account. You can also teach them things about how to start a business. I have a son that's in college.
Wow.
But at the same time, he's in I guess you would call the class a organizational leadership class, where they're teaching them how to start nonprofits. But that's at the college level. Just think though, if you taught them how to be entrepreneurs early, you can that gives them a choice to say, okay, I do want to work, but do I want to work for someone the rest of my life? That was my thing. I don't want to, because I want to build something that genuinely belongs to me, that I can help others. But it's okay to do it if that's something that benefits you and it fits into your schedule. But that was one reason, like you said, I wanted to really start a school, not only for that component, but to just teach those skills to where kids can be free. I think a lot of times when kids are free in their education, they learn better. Well, I see it at a young age, but I can just tell when they're free in their education, they have freedom, they learn better, they feel more comfortable. And if you allow them to have a trade of something they like to do, they're more ample to come into school. They want to come to school. I have 4-year-olds. What 4-year-old wants to come to school?
Exactly.
I mean, they don't, because it's like, I want to be home with mom. But when you make learning fun for them, and you make education a vast piece of how they do things every day, it becomes
Mhm.
important to them, even at that stage. And I can say that because I have the parents call me and they're like, they really miss school. And I'm like, I miss them too. But I don't even talk to them on the phone or anything because I had one student. And it's so upsetting because it's like you didn't finish with them. And I'm not going
Right.
to see them the rest of the year. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
it's sad to me because I'm
Yeah.
not used to that part. Because this piece of education for me is like the most important part.
Right.
So I FaceTime one of the students and she just mentally broke down and it tore me to
Yeah.
Aw.
pieces. And I was like, oh my goodness. So, when they love learning and that, like you said, they are a part of their learning, they feel like they're
Mhm.
invited into their learning. It helps
Absolutely.
them be more excited about what they're doing.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You make it because they're actually like command central, right? The kids are
Right,
actually command central, and everything else, the teacher, the schools, the community, we're just the resources that are supposed to pour into them. So it's not about like, in my mind, the way that the system is set up now is the kid is command central, but the kid is like reaching out for the resources, whereas
Right.
yes,
the inverse, where we're
right,
reaching into the kid to pull out what's in there, right? Because God has already put everything we need in us.
Mhm.
So our responsibilities as parents, as community organizers, as teachers, you have to go in there and pull out what's in that child because
Mhm.
oh
you'll
yeah,
be
definitely,
surprised.
Right.
And as far as like education jargon, you think about like DOK level 3 and 4, right?
Mhm.
That's what
Mhm.
it is. Like if you have the child outside and they're washing cars, I'll use that example. If they're washing cars, there's a list of things that you could write down or say
she
that they're
she
accomplishing, right?
definitely
Mhm.
like diameter, yeah. Teaching
Yeah.
them the circumference, all that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
I'm one of those type of teachers that just thinks like that. I'm like,
Right.
I can pull up a reading standard and compare and contrast and put two cars out there and have them watching the cars and still
There you
apply
go.
what they're learning without
Right.
them having to be sitting in a classroom. And
Right.
that's the direction that we're heading. And so this world is at this time, the world is looking for teachers who are capable of thinking outside the box, right? Like
Mhm.
that understand that. And I guess, I don't know, maybe this comes from me teaching boys. I've taught boys my entire career for the most part.
I had a class full of
Hmm.
boys.
Wow.
Yeah. So boys teach you some things and you
Yes.
learn, besides patience, you learn to think outside the box and do things differently.
And they're very analytical. Have you noticed that? They think very analytical. They
They do.
analyze everything. You'll say something to a little boy or even an older boy. They'll look at it from a more of a cultural standpoint, to me, in my
Gotcha.
opinion,
Mhm.
than uh bringing knowledge into it. But then when you have someone that says, okay, well, this is how you would look at it, and this is the reason why, then they can connect it.
Yeah.
I've seen
Wow.
that most, even in the little ones.
They do. They do. They do. They understand. That's why I said, if you just put it where the goats can get it. That's my favorite saying. Put it where the goats
I
can
like
get it.
that too. That's a
If
Yeah, I
good
know
they
she
thing.
gave us some. She gave,
put it,
I'm up
put
here
it,
writing these nuggets there.
put it where the goats can get it. All
Are
you
you
have
a true Southerner?
is I am from Alabama. Yes, I am.
Okay,
Really?
definitely.
I am.
What
I
part?
know she is.
Montgomery.
Okay, okay, okay,
I
okay.
can tell a true Southerner when I see one.
Put it where they can get it, and I promise you, they will
Right.
show you every time. Yeah, they'll show you.
And she's telling the truth. I saw and
Yeah.
those were some older teenage boys, and they were just so engulfed in learning. I was just like, this is amazing. I have another question. This can be for either one of you guys. Poverty and education.
Mm.
Um, we know that there's a concern with equity as equality as far as equity is across the board with certain populations are not as pervasive and have items such as other populations and being culturally sensitive to those other populations. What do you believe is the cure for dealing with these issues? And I'm not just talking about poverty where we don't have enough to eat, but We just don't even, we don't even have the wherewithal or the mental capacity to perform to a level of even desiring the education. So we're looking at the hierarchy of needs.
Right.
Either one of you guys take the floor on that. How do you think we could help if someone from CNN was watching this and saying, you know, maybe they have the answer? What could be the answer dealing with poverty and education across the board?
I would say more so, and I'm going to continue to say it because I feel like it's a gap
Mm-hmm.
in community versus school. And
Mm-hmm.
once you bridge that gap, and I'll continue to say I'm a product of that, where building the gap is so important. When you have those community outlets that are welcoming, I can't say that all community outlets are welcoming, because a lot of times we have backing of where money is a contributing factor.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that's not what people that can't afford to give money need. If we provide those opportunities as a community and as a, I would say not even as a, on a county level, as a culture. Because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times if we pull together as a culture, it's so many things we could do as partners in partnerships. And that's why that's one reason why I started my 501c3, because I feel it's so important to partner with people that are really trying to make a change and
What is
build
your,
those gaps.
what is the 501c3? What is it?
It's called Leading You Community Outreach, and
Okay.
all those things that Leading You Community Outreach INC, and I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page for my nonprofit 501c3. And with that being said, you have a lot of corporations that are willing to dump that money in, but a lot of time I think culturally we don't look back, we look forward. How can this money be used to build something a little bit greater? But a lot of times it's not really the aspect of how can we look at the money to build things a lot bigger. How can we go back and look at these things that are gaps in our community and build those things? You have college, you have students that are wanting to learn how to fill out a ACT application
Mm-hmm.
online.
Mm-hmm.
What if we had people that could build those gaps and help them? Are schools willing to build those gaps and say, hey, we'll give so and so to your nonprofit to get the supplies needed to invest in computers that can you can come in and help these kids with these things. Or let's send these kids to their center. Let us sponsor helping you as a county in your building build this gap to where you can help these kids get these ACT applications filled out online. Okay, how can we help them build the gap and be prepared to go to college in writing? Okay, let's partner with you and send these kids over here so that you can help them understand what an essay looks like on a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Building those skills, not even that. How can we help kids understand how vocational skills are important in their everyday life? How learning to cook. You have kids that come home every day. They
Mm-hmm.
have food, parents are at work. What if there was a program out there that filtered into that? Let's teach these kids economic skills. Okay, we can house these kids until their parents get off work, but it takes money,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not gonna be. As 501c3, we look for these people or corporations to build and pour into us as partnerships. But a lot of times the money goes elsewhere. It goes to a bigger cause that they see that their money working on a higher scale. And a lot of times I think they downplay a lot of the community-based nonprofits that can be very beneficial to helping within our own little circle, if that
So,
makes sense.
so you're saying basically have like an incubator that can be a hub to bridge the gap between the deficits that are there in the school-based learning. So this is a
Right.
hub that kind of
Because
bridges.
they can't do it all because it's on a set scale. So a lot of times it's important to me. I would say to me, because I feel like a lot of times the school can't do everything.
Right.
So they're expecting the parent to do everything. They are. The school a lot of times is expecting the parent to do everything.
They
But
do.
what if you built that partnership with your parent? do you really think that it would be a gap if you had the partnership where the parent could trust you to build their student as they're trying to help build them at home? But a lot of times you have to know that parents are working. So it's a gap. That's another gap because they can't be there to support their child all the time. So I feel like it's our obligation if we are in the community and we have the tools and resources that we can supply them with as 501c3s, we should be more ample to going out, building a bridge to close the gap.
So should it be like an assessment, upon entry, like it's got to be personal, but like a private assessment just to see what the needs are? Because, even in the setting I work in, you have some parents who are jaded as it relates to education because they didn't have a positive experience.
Right.
You have some who are very much into it, but don't have the means and mechanisms to support their children. So they're looking for the school to just provide all resources.
Right.
Then you have some pervasive issues that just kind of go undiagnosed, uncovered, because either the child is not a behavior problem. Just so many different issues. But if there was like a needs assessment or something that is done on the onset to really show what's needed. I know one time, because our school wearing uniforms, I was getting on a student. He was new. And I just thought, he's just gonna be defiant and just not wear the uniform. Your parents have signed the code book. You know what's expected. You see everyone else in uniforms, and yet I am very compassionate. But you got to kind of show yourself strong in the classroom. So I was just getting on them, and then it took him about 4 days for him to come to me and say, for one, we don't have a washing machine, and then two, my mom is between jobs, so she's not working. Now, mind you, I'm just trying to follow the lead of the administrative staff and enforce something. Yet I didn't take the time as an educator to show enough empathy, to tap in and see what the issues were, if there were some, versus just automatically off the bat trying to just go through my little protocols of what needs to be so I'm not questioned. But yet here's a situation. His main concern just get in there and get something to eat and just to be in existence. And whereas I'm trying to get him, set up in protocol to do what he needs to do. So I like that what you mentioned, Malikah. If we can have a hub, maybe with the needs assessments available just to see what the concerns are upon students getting registered, where parents can feel comfortable enough to converse. What are their issues, or what are your concerns, and make the assessment detailed enough to really dig deep into what these issues are, because we're dealing with something that is generational. This poverty thing goes years and years back.
It does. It's a poverty mindset, and a lot of times if we don't build our even as people that have, if we don't build our kids to feel like they have to work to achieve what they have, we'll lose them as well, because they start filtering into society where, okay, my parents will take care of me. No, not over here. That's not going to happen. My son is 19. He knows if he doesn't work, he's not going to just stay at home. He's going to do something. Whether it's working or you're gonna get out there and cut the grass, you're gonna do something. But I won't allow them to grow up to feel like poverty is something that you have to be. You don't have to be. You don't have to have poverty. You can be more than you strive to be if you have the mindset and you get the skills that you need to have to grow. And I feel like I said, it still filters back into us looking at other situations, because it's just like Rachel said. I had a parent that wrote me a note. She was like, I had to get a reality check because I'm so all into my mindset. Okay, she can do this. She can. Then I had to get a reality check. Maybe she can't.
Right.
Her note said, I'm moving into my house. I don't have any money to buy snacks. I'll try to buy a box of fruit snacks. And I'm like, for a minute, I'm like, oh, but then I had to pull back, and I had to say, hold on, what if that was you? Yeah, it was me at one point. My mom couldn't afford stuff all the time because she was a single parent at a portion of her life. So I had to really pull back, and it really gave me a reality check, because sometimes we as individuals, we get so privileged and how we look at reality for other people that we forget, okay, was this me at one point in my life? Because I have to do that sometimes. I have to dwindle back And that's what keeps me humble, because I have to look at it. I'm like, okay, I understand. I do understand.
But are we the norm? Or do we need to also be the standard for the people we work with? This empathy and being culturally sensitive to these students. Are we the norm?
We're the norm, because we feel we're at the balance. We're like in the middle, and we feel privileged because we are in the middle. But a lot of times we don't go back and look down the ladder and say, okay, was this my family or somebody in my family at one point in their life?
Right.
Because now in society, you're having to look at it again that way, because you're having to help your own family members.
Right.
At this point in time, you have family members that are not working. So are you going to still look at yourself as being the norm, and you know that you have people that really need your help right now?
Right.
Or are you going to say that poverty should hit them because they can't work? You can't say that. You have to, at this point, you have to bridge the gap, whether it's helping for shelter, helping for food, helping build a parent that doesn't understand, showing them love. However you have to do it, you have to do it at this point, because it's a critical time right now. Because it may be somebody out there that's really struggling, that really needs somebody in their corner at this season.
Yeah, Coach K, I had a question for you. And we're getting ready to close out shortly, but as it relates to testing, what are your thoughts as it relates to having a standardized test across the board that is for everyone, even though we're expected to teach utilizing differentiation and teach students on their levels?
Well, if I could go backwards for just a second before,
Yes.
I'm gonna just get straight to it and answer that question about that testing. I'm not a proponent of testing. I'm a proponent of assessing for needs, but I'm not a proponent of testing.
For knowledge.
And I'll come back. Right. So if you're teaching for mastery, and you should see it anyway. I'll come back to that. So you talk that poverty thing is it's a two-edged sword. So it's going to lead into me answering your question that you just asked, Dr. Gretchen, and that I totally see this thing totally different. And I think that what I'm going to say, I've said it before, and it's quite controversial, because I've literally spent time with other cultures and how they learn and how they educate their children. And I've gone down that rabbit hole regarding poverty and teachers having to address social issues and economic issues with students, right? And us having to be social workers as well as teachers and mothers, etc., right? So here's how I feel about this. I use the analogy that I would not go to my beautician if I had a plumbing problem.
That's good.
Okay. So why I say that? I say that because you got the biggest issue is we're trying to provide services for all types of people, right? Black, white, green, yellow. But we don't really know about their social and economic issues. We know as far as what research has been provided to us. We understand that. But Dr. Gretchen, you just used a prime example. You said that you were getting on the student because they signed the handbook, they understood the rules and so forth. I've been in that situation too. And that's all it takes is for that child to come to you one time and say, well, this is what's going on at home and we don't have it. That shut me down. As a matter of fact, I went back and forth with the dean of discipline and said, I just flat out will not address it. You can address it, but I'm not going to, because I don't need that child to demonize me.
Right.
To look at me as this is the person I can go to and talk to. So I'm trying to build a relationship. Now, if you want to do that, you go ahead and do that. But I just can't. I can't focus on that. So my idea of dealing with these issues goes back to when the schools were integrated, when the segregation was cut out. And so here's what I look at. I look at it like this. We're always going to be first at last, because how can you come in? How can a person come in from a different community? Not saying they can't, but 100%, I'm just being real, and teach a child that they do not know that child's history, racially, economically, socially, and really, really, really make that connection without that child wanting to, say, I'm over this with this school thing, because all it takes is one bad experience, right?
Right.
So when you talked about, Miss Malikah, when you talked about the community, right? There
Right.
was a time where we did, we had the mothers that went in and taught school,
Right.
and the community supported that financially. We
Right.
know, as a community, regardless of the race, what your child needs, because culturally you've programmed it. So
Right.
if
Right.
you have a school that's specifically for those type of children, they have a better opportunity of
There you
attaining
go.
it. And the best example I can give you is the HBCU. Now, I didn't attend the HBCU. I attended the PWI, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I pushed my daughter in that direction,
Right.
because I'm like, I need you to get to know who you are first. And I
Right.
truly believe that those people at that college are going to be able to tap into what you need and give it to you. As you being an African American female, they're gonna be able to give it to you. So
I wish I had that experience. I didn't have that experience because I did a liberal college as well.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I may have taken Spanish and all the way from middle school to college, I'm gonna be honest, I can't give that
Right.
Hispanic child what someone who has grown up in the culture, that speaks the language, I can't give him what he needs or she needs like that person can.
Mm-hmm.
And does that mean that we all need to go into education and start? No, it doesn't. It just means that child needs a setting to thrive, because guess what's going to end up happening? They're going to end up the minority. They're going to end up the highest of the lowest of everything. The free lunch, the IEPs, the resources, the pullouts, they're always going to be in that category. And it couldn't just be that it's just a language barrier and a cultural barrier that's stopping him or her from getting what he needs or she needs.
And it can be a lot of times, because I have 2 Hispanic students, but I'm so appreciative, and this is what I learned this year, was that the parents trusted me. It was something someone had to tell them or that they knew, but they trusted me. So it made it easier for me to help their children learn, because they trusted what I could do for them. And they're very appreciative if you can tap into their cultural thing where they can trust you.
Absolutely.
I'm learning that's the breaker for me.
Right. So I believe in the incubators for the different groups, and then as a so let's say I'm gonna use colors, right? So let's say you have community for the red, community for the green, you have a community for the orange and for the brown, right?
Right.
Now we're all a community, right?
Right.
But we have our respective, colors, and we have our respective, those colors have their respective places, and they're being taught. The reds are being taught how to be a red. The oranges are being taught how to be an orange, and et cetera, et cetera. Where the blending comes into place is the resources. So it's okay if I have to go over to the red, if I'm a green and I got to go to the red community and borrow some resources, or we collaborate on resources. That's okay. But I'm teaching, I know for a fact, I'm teaching African American males. That's all that's in my classroom. I think there's maybe one child that's non-Hispanic, one or two. Right, 1 or 2 boys that's non-Hispanic, and I think I have like 2 or 3 Hispanic boys, but the rest of them are African American. So the parents are like, they love you. You're doing a phenomenal job. It's because I got 2 of these at the house. Right. I know what it takes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I know what it takes. I know that I can't tell those little brown boys I can't ask them if they want to have a seat. There is no such thing as, do you want to have a seat? Because at home,
have
mom's
a seat.
Not asking you,
yes, sit down.
Right, go sit down.
Go sit down. Right. Mm-hmm. Right.
That's what they're
the difference.
Right.
That language even the language is different.
Yeah,
that culture is
different.
Real in our community. So, but if you come in and you don't know this,
Right.
It's difficult. And so what ends up happening, they become behavior problems. And they're not behavior problems. That's just not their norm. So
It's not their
that's
norm.
where I'm going on that. But yeah, as far as the question that you asked, that testing, I really believe it just can,
Yes.
it can be, you can find out what that child knows without
Right.
over testing them. I'll say
Yes.
that. Without
Right.
over testing. You know,
Testing
you
for
assess
knowledge.
the needs, and then you
Do
figure
you
out how
think
to
it should
match
be a standardized test though? Because I was so glad when the state of Georgia canceled testing this year. But do you think it should be
Oh,
a
Lord.
standardized testing?
I'm gonna tell. I've looked at, and this is so funny. I wish that we would adopt. California has an awesome way of how they test their kids.
Oh, really? How they test? Tell me.
They're one of the highest achieving cities in the U.S.
What do they do?
test their kids by they give them like analyzed tests, so they're thinking more versus a test that's geared from another country or that's not culturally biased. They
Okay.
they test them off of like Coach K said, they test them off a knowledge base. So the test is more of an I guess you would call like a analyzing test, where if I have a light bulb and it has a force that goes so and so, which two parts of the light bulb would allow the light to work? That's
Oh, it's
science.
making them think. Okay.
Yeah, it's making them think. Their tests is analyze their thinking, even their math portions. They're computing problems on there, but they're teaching them to more so do mental math. So
Okay.
they're challenging them to think. And when I looked at that test, I was like, our tests don't look like this. Our tests are more so just testing to this standard, or testing on something they really haven't even learned, which doesn't make sense to me, because you're wanting them to maintain what they already know, but to add to it. I always feel like kids shouldn't you shouldn't go into a foreign thing that they don't know and then try to dwindle it down and teach it to them. That doesn't make sense. Teach them what it means first, and then test their skill or knowledge, like Coach K said, and then we know if they really have developed the skill of knowing what something really means in pure context. Because if you connect all three, the knowledge, the skill, and understanding, they mastered. To me, they've mastered at that point. Am I right or wrong, Coach K? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Listen, hey, let me tell you something.
Preaching to the choir, huh?
Right, you're preaching to the choir. What you're saying is true, because we're not all the same. We don't all learn the same, but there is one common denominator, and that is how we progress as a culture. There's certain things that we can say culturally that, like I can say, hey, during Thanksgiving, if somebody says, "Who all over there?" I don't know what it means. We all know it culturally. You know what I mean? We all
over there. That means you don't want to come and Sally over there.
If it's not if it ain't a crowd over there, ain't coming for no
Oh, that is too funny. That's
right.
funny, man. That is so funny. Well, guys, I really thank you all. I hope that we get another chance. I know we will. Both of you guys bring such great knowledge to the table, and I'm so excited about the future of you both. And I'm glad to have you guys on. This recording will be uploaded to YouTube to share as well. And just thank you all for your time and your knowledge. And I'm looking forward to reading both of you guys' books. And so I'm excited about the future.
On it. So, Kay, you're phenomenal. I would love to have you on my team when I get this project started. I really would.
You gotta follow me. Follow my coaching page. It's at 24K Life Coaching.
Okay, what on Facebook?
Facebook and on Instagram.
24K, the numbers right, 24K.
24K, like 24K. Yep, Life Coaching. Yep, on Instagram and on Facebook. And I actually have been, I just started the live sessions where I'm allowing people to come in, like if you just want to ask questions.
Look at you. I see you, girl.
Ask questions.
Flawless.
Ask questions. Do it. Get in there. So, yeah, I just want us to be I want us to be okay. You know what I'm saying? After this is over, whatever your okay looks like, you create that. But I just want you to. I just want us to be okay. You know what I mean? I want you to be at peace. You know.
How can
Girl,
we
let's
follow you
partner on
too?
some stuff.
How can we follow you too, Malikah?
I'm on Facebook as SNS Consulting and Business Development LLC, and I'm also on Facebook as Lead in You Community Outreach Inc. on Facebook, and on Instagram it's SAS 2018. And those are my two handles. Those are the only two. Oh, and I do have a YouTube channel, which is SNS Consulting and Business Development at gmail.com.
I love it. Just wealth of knowledge, wealth of knowledge. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for you just utilizing your time and being with us on this evening. I look forward to having you guys back.
We enjoyed it.
Thank you, Dr. Gretchen.
See you later.
Take care.
ladies.
Take care.